Have you ever seen a team destroyed by conflict? We have a very interesting quote here, and the quote is from Thomas Iskar, who says, "Conflict can destroy a team which hasn't spent time learning to deal with it." Now, last week we spoke about why we need conflict in teams. This week we're going to talk about how do we set up a team to not be destroyed by it. Building on last week's quote from Peter Singer that says conflict is essential in high-performing teams, we want to learn how do we set that up properly. And the way it is, it always starts at the beginning of a team. And by the way, if it's an existing of the team, why not restart the team? And I've seen that work brilliantly in the past. In high conflict environments, it's actually completely normal for a team to go through dysfunctional conflict. And very often the progression works like this. As a team is forming and people are excited to be joining the team, the conflict is probably a little bit too low. Everybody's being a little bit polite. We then go into, that's the forming stage. The storming stage is exactly when all the conflict comes out and all of the irritations and all of the dysfunction comes out. And that's also dysfunctional conflict. We then, once we recover from that and we start norming, we find again there's a tendency to avoid a bit of conflict, maybe because of the pain of the storming stage. And we need to encourage in stage 3 great conflict, positive conflict that will bring us to stage 4, because I do not believe a stage 4 team, a performing team, has zero conflict. It has functional or productive conflict. So how do we navigate our teams through that? Well, it all starts with the team charter. And the team charter is the place where we establish the ground rules. We're talking about why are we here? When everybody aligns on a common purpose, we're going to reduce the amount of dysfunctional conflict and dysfunctional conflict avoidance. We also have an opportunity to get to know everybody, and that is the who of teaming. So we go from the why of teaming to the who of teaming, and when we really get to understand each other, this also understanding reduces conflict and increases trust. And so the understanding of what each person's genius is that they're bringing to the team, what people have as their background, understanding the humanity of the team, that also reduces the dysfunctional conflict. And then we put some ground rules in place. We're talking about the how of the team. How are we going to be together to achieve that wonderful purpose that we want to create? This way, by putting those 3 things in place, the why, the who, and the how, we are setting the team up that we can get through the dysfunctional conflict and conflict avoidance stages to the productive and functional conflict. So back to that quote which says, conflict can destroy a team which hasn't spent time learning to deal with it. The setup is those 3 steps is the first thing that we do. But in the how, why not add a conflict clause? What are we going to do when conflict arises? Are we going to support people just vomiting over each other, or are we going to have protocols for how we deal with conflict? For example, we deal with the issue and not the person. Similarly with accountability, how do we handle accountability? When we put those properly in place and we enforce or reinforce the practice of our how that we have agreed upon together, that way our conflict becomes much less dysfunctional, much less conflict avoidance, which is also dysfunctional, and gets us into the sweet spot of functional, productive conflict where we have the full creativity, the full genius of each person operating, coming up with solutions that no individual could ever have come up with on their own. That's what we're looking for. If you like this video, why not hit subscribe? That way you can regularly get conscious leadership updates in your YouTube feed.